6 months ago, I quit my job and gave myself 6 months to chase my dreams as a creator. Today is the end of those months and 3 days into a new year. And yet, here I am grinding my life away, kissing my fake wife, in my fake farm, feeding my ostriches and goats. I would have thought 6 months in, I'd be more productive in chasing my dreams. But that's the thing, I feel like I actually did reach my dreams, and I'm currently here sitting wondering, what do I do now? I'm at this point where you reach the heights you wanted to, but then you suddenly ask yourself, did I aim too low? Like, was that it? Was that all you ever wanted to work for? Maybe it's because I come from a place where it felt impossible. There was a ceiling and it felt stupid to plan beyond that. But we live in a world where impossible does happen, and I get to ask myself, I've reached my dreams. What now? I don't think I'm an ambitious person. I've never been. Maybe because I grew up never really thinking much of myself. Like, you know when people ask you what you want to be when you grow up? I'd say the outlandish thing that we all do, like climb Everest or go to outer space. It's possible, but it's a low probability. And you only say it knowing it'll never actually happen, but just so you could answer the question. For me, becoming a full-time creator was that dream for outer space. And somehow good things happened and seemingly worked out, and now here I am lost, flying through outer space. Last year felt like I lived two different lifetimes, and two different versions of myself. A life before and after quitting. Right now it's been 196 days since quitting, but let's go back to 154 days before. I was still balancing my 9 to 5 and creating back then, and I honestly didn't really have my sights on creating full time. It was only January, but I was already feeling creatively stuck, though it wasn't until I traveled to Paris which kind of got me out of my rut. After that trip, I didn't really have much plans after that. I was kind of going through the motions of living a double life of a web developer and a content creator. It was a normal enough life that was until I got invited to create camp for the first time. It was only 3 weeks between getting invited and going to camp where I found myself on the west coast of California for the first time with a bunch of strangers. It was scary to me as I didn't really know who I'd be seeing apart from a couple faces I've spoken to online before. But really, it was that fear which was the first sign I was going in the right direction. This moment was one of the biggest life-changing moments for me. Finally being around other creators like myself, I didn't feel so alone anymore. And this bonding experience made it feel like I've known these people all my life. How can I know these people so little yet feel so close to them already? A duality in finding your people. You know, it was in this moment when saying goodbye when I decided I finally want to become a full-time creator this year. How else was I going to meet these people or people like them if I'm only allowed to have 25 days of paid holiday for work every year? This was when it set in. I have an actual dream to chase. A dream to be a full-time creator. In real life, a dream happens the moment it happens. We don't go to bed preempting and planning to have a certain dream. It kind of just happens while you sleep. And this was kind of like that. I had a taste of that dream and now I want to make it reality. This was a formation of a new dream for me. The next couple months were me longing for this life I had in the woods in San Francisco. I was hungry for that life, and that pushed me even more to making my decision. And when I turned 30 in New York, hitting that made me question if it was too late. And let me tell you now, it isn't. It's never too late. I hosted an event and met more creators and the creators that I lived with during Creator Camp 2, which, in all honesty, being from London, I never thought I'd ever see again, let alone this close. This was when it solidified that these were for sure my people, and I wanted and needed to be around them even more. It was during that same month where I had a brand deal with Virgin Atlantic, and it involved me going home from New York to London and then back to New York the day after. It was crazy, but it was my first brand trip and another taste of a full-time creator life. And the next month, I was in Paris with Stella Artois. The world was giving me these opportunities and I'd be dumb not to take it. I was grinding away in my 9 to 5 and creating that I couldn't balance both any longer. The hard work was finally paying off, and that's when I decided to finally quit my job.
I've been thinking about it for a while, but I want to hand in like my notice and leave Essential.
Okay, what?
I did it. I finally achieved my dream of becoming a full-time creator, and in hindsight, it came much sooner and quicker than I thought. Was I even ready? Even though I was making enough money to live comfortably, mentally, was I ready? Work ethic wise too. Working to get to your dreams is one thing, but working to sustain that dream was going to be a whole nother level. I didn't really have much time to figure out the work ethic, let alone figure any plan out after quitting. Opportunities and trips and burnouts came one after another, and what I didn't realize was I was trading in a 9 to 5 for a 24/7. But I loved it. It was more than I could ever ask for, and I was living. I was experimenting with my content, going on trips, meeting with creators, working with so many dream brands. It was more than I could ever ask for. I was making way more money than I was with my 9 to 5, and I was living like a king. But I come soon to realize that I was eating, but I was no longer hungry. I felt like I got a little too comfortable, and I realized I wasn't really working towards anything anymore. The dualities of chasing a dream. How ironic, isn't it? That chasing a dream means making the impossible possible. Then when you reach your heights, you'd wonder if it's still too low. You see, in reality, a dream happens when it happens in your sleep. You don't really plan for it. So technically, would you know what dream you're even chasing? Look, but when we do find one though, they say you have to spend all your time working on it. But how? Because then they say you need to enjoy the time that you've earned. By the end of it, as long as you're happy that you've reached your goal. Because when it ends, it's the chase that you'll start to yearn. Okay, and now that brings us to the present day, where I, in all honesty, feel lost, After realizing recently that, I think I actually did achieve my dreams. The dream to become a full-time creator and make money doing it, while also being able to create whatever the heck I want. I was able to do that in these last 6 months. But then I kind of realized what comes next, because there seems to always have to be a next, but I just can't seem for the life of me to figure out what I do want to come next. Is it to become a director, to do YouTube full time and not short form, or do the vice versa, just do short form and not YouTube, or maybe even go back to a normal job, like a 9 to 5 that's in a creative space, not necessarily back to web developing, And that's kind of where my mind's been at. It's been kind of like do you know that Roman god Janus? Looking back and looking forward. I'm at that stage in time, and it's very fitting that it's January, because January was named after that Roman god. The god of beginning and ends, and funnily enough, the beginning of dualities. And that word duality is something that's constantly been popping up in my mind last year, between juggling work and seeing all these different ways where I'm gonna take my artistry and my talents. And it's a big time of transition for me. I realized those 6 months that I gave myself was not enough time for a transition from quote unquote normal life to this kind of full-time creative life that I'm kind of living now. And that's one dream I still want to chase, that I know for sure, is to create, to continue doing this full-time and to create. That I know I love doing, what I'm kind of lost with is where to take that, where to take that creativity and the art that I make. Do I take that into a professional space? Do I start teaching people? Do I start providing my services to people? That's where my mind's all muddled up right now. And that's kind of why I kind of want to take this year to experiment, to do as much as I can and what I want, And that's kind of why this whole video has been these different parts and these different contrasting styles, is because I want to play my artistry, because that's also another thing that I'm trying to figure out. Am I a writer? Do I want to be a poet? Which I've never done in my life, but maybe that's one thing I want to do, And I want to take this year to explore and experiment. And that's going to be the theme for this year and this channel, this YouTube channel that you're watching now, is I want to just bring you with me into like this life of experimenting and exploring, and hopefully we find that connection or experience that helps spark this new dream of mine, and hopefully in turn inspire you to find yours. So yeah, for now, my dream is to create for fun and for myself, and hopefully those creations help inspire you guys to create and find your own dreams. All right, let's go to space. Weekly videos, let's go.
Yeah, just punch me. Look, I remember how that last summer changed my life. Had a lot of dark and it finally came to light. I lost a lot of friends, I had swore they on my side. I thought it was the end for the first time in my life. Look, I called back home. They couldn't believe what they was hearing through the sat phone. I told my mama I ain't know if I was still chose.